Buenas tardes, seguimos en el Barcelona New Economy Week, el evento híbrido empresarial y digital más singular de Barcelona, que saben organiza el consorcio de la Zona Franca con el objetivo de reactivar la recuperación económica desde aquí, desde Barcelona, pero en todo el mundo. Nosotros seguimos en este plató de e-commerce hablando de eso largo y tendido y les pido ahora que no se vayan porque va a arrancar ahora mismo uno de los debates más interesantes y en los que desde luego van a aprender más. ¿Sabían ustedes que África es uno de los lugares en los que más se utiliza el pago móvil? Se pagan muchas veces pues, las tasas escolares, las cuentas del agua, también muchísimas facturas, como decía, todo con el teléfono móvil, con un mensaje, sin necesidad de ir al banco. No lo necesitan, no necesitan ir al banco, pero tampoco es que fuera demasiado sencillo. Es en muchos casos una odisea, aproximadamente 15 kilómetros de casa de estos usuarios a una sucursal bancaria. Allí el pago móvil, por lo tanto, está más que instaurado y además poco a poco pues, se va avanzando y va ampliándose su uso. Según el ICEX, de hecho, se prevé que entre 2021 y 2025 aumenten estas transacciones un 78%. En fin, no me extiendo más, les voy a dejar con quien va a moderar ahora mismo esta ponencia, es Francisco Jimeno. Francisco, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. De nada. Muchas gracias. Él es, para que lo sepan, el Brand Generalist de la Blockchain Company Limited, una empresa británica con sede en Londres, pero también en otros lugares como Barcelona o Cape Town. Francisco vivió en Tanzania y trabajó como educador y consultor empresarial durante 25 años, de modo que tiene, como saben, un amplio conocimiento del entorno económico y financiero de África Oriental. Así que adelante, Francisco, les dejo con los ponentes de lujo que tiene de forma online, así que les veo en un rato. Gracias.
Yeah. Gracias and thank you. We are going to speak everything in English, and I hope if you need any translation, you will have that service. So first of all, I want to introduce the speakers here at this panel. And the first one is Njoki Musuri. He's from Kenya and is a trade finance specialist and working with one of the new digital payment platforms called ImpalaPay, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And Alistair, hello, Alistair. Alistair Temple is CEO at the e-commerce Forum Africa in Johannesburg. He is the expert of e-commerce in Africa. You want to know anything about trends, insights, startups, tips, innovation, anything about e-commerce in Africa? Well, circular economy, sustainability, everything, you talk to Alistair. Okay. Yeah, third speaker is Enrico. Hello, Enrico. Enrico Ferrigoli is a tech entrepreneur, is a COO, and he defines himself as e-commerce on-demand executive. We'll talk more about that later. He lives in Cape Town and he works for startups on demand and also for a big South African company called Pick and Pay. And at the end is Michelle Chivunga, who is CEO, founder, and investor of Global Policy House in UK. Well, she really has, she works in all around the world because she works with the Commonwealth, she works with the African Union, she works with different environments, always trying to find the best solution with the challenges that the fourth industrial revolution now is bringing to all the globe and also to Africa, of course. So welcome, Njoki, Alistair, Enrico, and Michelle. But before we start talking, let me also explain a little more about what is this about mobile money. You know, because you live in Africa, I know because I have lived in Africa, but many people in Europe, in Spain here now, don't really understand what is that and what are the consequences and the revolution that mobile money brought into Africa. for the people and for the trade and the commerce and so on. So mobile money is just that. It's money through the mobile, through the phone, not a smartphone, a normal phone. You don't need an account in the bank. You don't need documents this, documents that. You just need a telephone line and your ID card when you sign for the line, the telephone line. So you can put money, you can send money, you can receive money. You don't have to put it together with your bank account because many people don't have bank accounts in many countries in Africa. And you can, as the presenter said, you can do now practically everything that in Europe we do with the banks. For instance, pay bills, utilities, pay school fees, pay at the shop, receive money, and also do trade and commerce. Again, this is not internet-based. It's not digital in that sense. It is based on telecom platforms. And the first one was M-Pesa. Pesa is Swahili for money. And it was born in Kenya, some like 20 years ago. And it made a revolution because all of a sudden, all the unbanked people, all the people that live in rural areas, all the people that could not have a bank account because they had very little income and the banks didn't even listen to them, all of a sudden enter into the financial wealth. They could go and pay, receive, send money, look for loans, save money, etc. So this really changed the financial environment of many countries, starting with East Africa, with Kenya and Tanzania, in such a way that nowadays there is more money going around through M-Pesa and through other mobile money platforms that in the banks of Kenya, for instance, or Tanzania, or Uganda, or Rwanda, whatever. It's very interesting because the banks were late, as usual, and they didn't understand the concept of M-Pesa until everyone moved there to M-Pesa. And now M-Pesa is a big company all around Africa, but also there are many clones of M-Pesa. We will talk about that, but there are also new digital platforms, and this mobile money like M-Pesa and so on are going also digital, right? Because everybody is going digital, no? The fourth industrial revolution. Well, that's about mobile money. I will talk more about that later, but that's enough for me to talk. I just would like to start asking Njoki. Njoki, do you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Professor, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. You in Kenya are working for a new digital payment platform. But in the country where the mobile money started and where mobile money is all around, where it's very difficult to compete with mobile money that has been established. How do you see this mobile money evolving to a digital-based economy? How do you deal with e-commerce, for instance, when we need now digital solutions? Talk a little about your challenges, what solutions you can provide, etc.
Okay. Thank you, Enrico, for the question that you just asked. As you're aware, we run a company called ImpalaPay, and what we do is provide a complementary service and a complementary solution towards where mobile money is prevalent. So we are working together with the traditional banks, so we don't view them as competition. With the prevalence of Safaricom, we work alongside them. What because in a region where we have 21 million users that are under M-Pesa on Safaricom, with the next competitor having about 300,000, that's Airtel Money, we work in an environment where we have to have a collaboration or to enable the services that we offer. So as in one of our key solutions that we offer is escrow services, especially for cross-border traders who work along the boundaries between Kenya and Uganda, where we can have mobile money exchange towards different telecom operators, where you have Safaricom or MTN. These are part of the additional complementary services that we offer. Apart from the escrow services, we also have a payment gateway that offers also towards the same community that's unbanked, that's where mobile money is prevalent. Then they are able to either receive money internationally through our payment gateway, as well as interact together. So our main sector of services has been the target of traders. That's why we set up the company, not specifically retail, but the smaller SME traders. So that gives us a sort of edge to work with most mobile telecom companies such as Airtel Money and Safaricom. And thereafter, we also have engagement with most of these banks where they open virtual accounts also for Impala Pay to do payouts, be either the tier 1 banks such as even the Kenya commercial banks or the smaller tier 4 banks such as Citian Bank. So that gives us leverage to work across each and every enterprise that we have. If it's a smaller one that's collaborating with a bigger buyer in the same environment, or across Uganda or Tanzania. Our main trade activity that we see is across the East, Central, and West African route, where Impala Pay also has payout centers that we use also to enhance trade within the region where we are at, or within also collaboration towards the proliferation of trade activity. So apart from the smaller traders, we also find added value with the e-commerce sites. There are about 691 marketplaces in Africa, of which where we are based, Kenya, we have four countries in Africa where those are the major players that we have: South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, and Egypt. So alongside where Impala Pay works, we find that also our service complements these upcoming e-commerce or marketplaces, of which traders now are plugging in, given what happened with COVID and cashless transactions now being more proliferated.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's very interesting. I was really feeling curious about what solutions Impala Pay was providing. And you have said something very interesting, that you don't compete, you partner. And about the 4 places in Africa that are really, let's say, on the forefront, like Nigeria, East Africa, Egypt, and South Africa. Yes, and that you were cross-border and so. So I think it's very important to have, I don't know, Alistair and Enrico and Michelle, you also can ask. But I think it's very important to have local companies that understand the African environment to really improve the situation of the e-commerce in the whole continent, because it's a huge continent and with many different situations and environments. No, so that is my opinion. But also, do you compare your situation with a local company with the other foreign companies that come and they want to, let's say, start their own digital platforms, payment platforms and trade platforms, e-commerce platforms? What are the challenges they get compared to your local situation? Because what I see is that many come and many fail, or many come and they just lag, they don't go up, and so on. What is the difference between Impala Pay, for instance, and other people, or ClickPesa that works in Uganda and Tanzania, and other people that come from UK or from America, or from Europe or whatever, and they want to start something like yours?
Okay, I understand. I think what I should mention, Francisco, is that from a huge continent of about more than 50 countries, we only have 10 countries that are responsible for 94% of all online businesses in Africa. Then we've got, again, 5 countries that are responsible for 78% of the marketplace traffic. So when you look at those numbers, then you find that it's foreign enterprises that are looking to have a bite of the e-commerce market in Africa also need to consider the regulatory level, where not much has been done, because out of 54 African nations, only 20 have enacted online consumer protection and data management laws. Of the 4 top e-commerce platform providers, from Jumia, Congo Pay, Kilimall, and Bid or Buy, you find Take a Lot from South Africa. For example, Take a Lot from South Africa only serves the South African market only, doesn't do outside of South Africa. Jumia, on the other hand, covers 23 countries, but of that, you find that are there any consumer protection and data management laws where they're interacting? Of course, COVID has helped, because then most of the people post-COVID are the ones, then you had an increase of number where we have about 58% who transacted their first online grocery shopping for the first time. And so given those disparities, it becomes a continent where you cannot just take what's working in another continent and sort of match it up to work in where the market is different.
No,
I think such considerations are very key to highlight when they're coming in or when they're interested in coming to interact. There's a lot of, like you rightfully said, as in Impala Pay, there are a lot of digital providers such as Flutterwave that also looked at how do we get visibility of offline retailers to offer online activities. That's one. There's a second one, like Soccerwatch, that has 16,000 shops that had a surge of up to 90% when they offered same-day tech-enabled deliveries. So when you look at the challenges that we have in the market, they're very different from what is available in other continents. So that needs to be a huge consideration for any player who is willing to come in and adjust or look at the relevancy of what they're offering versus what the market reality is. So as in Impala Pay, these are one of the considerations that we do when we map out each and every market where we are operating. So it's not a cut and paste of what works in Kenya will work in Uganda. No.
Yeah. Thank you. And more with this post-COVID, or let's say even now, continuous COVID environment, no? Where the many people just is looking for specific things they don't want to spend on, I don't know what, because there is no money. There are many challenges now with this post-COVID environment, and more in Kenya, as I know. Thank you, Njoki. Asante sana. Alistair, hello. As the person that have worked with e-commerce for a long time within Africa, not just South Africa, Johannesburg, let me ask you, what is the status of the state of cross-border e-payments for e-commerce within Africa?
Thank you, Francisco. I'd like to just say that what Njoki has just pointed out is so important.
Yep.
The cross-border situation in Africa, 55 countries within the continent and some islands, is very small indeed. So even if we look, we've been looking just now at B2C, but if we look at B2B, for example, even there is very little activity indeed. It's estimated that around about 16 to 18% of all African trade is intra-Africa. The rest is all outside. So at least 82% of African trade is selling out to Europe, China, US, et cetera. And that means that the lack of value chains, for example, within Africa, which make it, again, very difficult to stimulate more manufacturing within Africa. Africa has actually been deindustrializing for the last 10 years or more, not reindustrializing, not creating. It's just selling its mineral wealth and its agricultural wealth unprocessed to other countries. So this sort of thing is going to have to change if we're going to be able to employ the enormous number of young people who are coming onto the market every year in Africa. We are just about to overtake China in the size of population, 1.3 billion people, and within a couple of years, we'll overtake India as well. So this is a very important issue for policymakers, for the population in general, that we need to have robust digital economy in order to drive forward manufacturing. What I'd like to look at with your question, Francesco, is two issues. The first one is about payments across frontiers, and the second one is about aggregating those payments and aggregating payments in general. So last week, this is fresh news. Last week, the African Export-Import Bank introduced a new cross-border system for e-payments called the Pan-African Payments and Settlement System. This will become a continental-wide platform for processing, for clearing, and for settling intra-Africa trade and commerce payments. And it's expected to save $5 billion a year in payment transactions.
Wow.
So you can see how enormously big this waste of money that we have at the moment, because we don't have a proper system in place to allow people to pay across frontiers. And the bank also is going to offer settlement guarantees, overdraft facilities for settlement agents and things like that to make sure that the basis of the system is properly in place. Together with that, we've got the success of entrepreneurs who are providing solutions for remitting payments between countries. So they've been already working very hard and being created over the last few years. A great example is Flutterwave, which became the second African unicorn. That was the beginning of this year. We've now got another 2 unicorns. So we've had 3 unicorns created in Africa just in this year, in this last 10 months. I was looking through some notes, and I noticed that there's a Nigerian startup called Verto, which is a B2B payments platform that provides a fast and simple and reliable way for SMEs to make payments to their suppliers in over 200 countries across 39 currencies. And they've just raised, they came in the news last week because they've raised a Series A round of $10 million to boost their expansion. And they are just one of many different ones that are being created. When it comes to different forms of aggregating payments, either within countries or cross-border, there appear to be no lack of global interest or indeed of investment. And investment is a key thing for us here in Africa. There's very little investment by foreign companies. Another example is Paystack, for example, which was bought up by the US-based Stripe, which itself is a unicorn. And these companies, they all offer online payment integration services. So I just came across one which I really touched me last week, and that was a new African fintech from South Africa called Moja, which is a payment service, but it's also building a smart township. Imagine, smart township with full integration, internet, skills training, schools, hospital, etc., etc., etc. So almost like a one-stop shop.
Yeah. Awesome.
For people who mainly were the unbanked, certainly until recently. So much of Africa's success in fintech has certainly been due to the de facto open banking approach by countries. And obviously that does also lead to some flip-flopping of regulation. The Nigerians on, for example, cryptocurrencies have flip-flopped. One moment they like them, next moment they don't, next moment they're making regulations on them, etc., etc. But mainly open banking is here to stay. It's not here in South Africa yet, actually, but it's here in the rest of Africa to stay. And I think it will create the situation where fintechs in particular will grow very, very quickly. And it will ensure also that traditional currencies are merged with mobile money to make it acceptable nationally and also cross-border. Just one word of warning: advances in processing of payments has not removed central bank restrictions on remittances to and from other countries. For example, I was trying to set up for our association a dollar account in South Africa. That is very difficult to do still. And obviously, these are sort of non-tariff barriers, if you like it, for the African free trade area, which hopefully will be removed over time. So then the other issue is the issue of more than 40 different national currencies in Africa, 55 countries and over 40 national currencies. So you can imagine trying to ensure that the exchange of currencies is done in a reasonable way is very difficult indeed. But I'm going to leave Michelle to answer that question because she knows the answer. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Alistair. Yes, true. We will ask later, Michelle, about maybe an Africa coin or something like that. But it's true, Alistair. There are a lot of hopes for the continent, trade, the e-commerce, and so on, rise, but the merge of mobile money and e-commerce, the digital platforms and non-digital platforms. But also there are many challenges. The first one, as you said, the regulatory challenges, the different, well, the difference between these Anglo-African countries, French African countries, different North African countries, and so on, and different policies that can change at any day, at any moment. But what cannot be stopped is that the continent is growing. The population is growing. There is a lot of youth that need solutions, and well, there we have to work with, no? So thank you. I have heard that together with what you said about that new African payment platform, that there is also the African Union has has launched an Africa free trade area. Most of the countries already have signed, but I think the implementation will be slow in some areas, some places. But as you said, a lot of trade in Africa is made with China or India or America and so on. And this should change. This should change, and it's I think the new technologies like the blockchain, the cryptos, the digital experience will transform this too. I think so. And I also have done some research on these digital companies. You have said Flutterwave, Jumia, all this new one in Moja in South Africa and so on. Really are very, very interesting. Conga that defined itself at the beginning like we want to be the new Amazon of Africa and so on, no? Even digital banks that are appearing now in Nigeria or in South Africa, like Kuda Bank or Time Bank and so on, no? So I think they are changing also the e-commerce environment that has a lot of challenges to do well, to work better and so on. And as you say, to merge with all these mobile money issues. Anyway, let's go to Enrico. Enrico, I am going to read you a sentence, and please tell me if you agree with this sentence, or maybe you just have agree or don't agree, and why. Okay? The sentence is this: e-commerce in Africa is more a primary shopping experience for products not being wide available. E-commerce in Africa is more a primary shopping experience for products not being wide available. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't agree, maybe it's partially true. And in some countries it's like that, in some countries not. In some countries, instead of classical e-commerce solutions, they go through social media. What do you want to say?
Thanks for having me today. Hi, everybody. Well, as the other panelists said already, I think Africa, it's very difficult to talk about Africa in one single shape, right?
True.
South Africa is actually a very advanced e-commerce market. It's probably a very advanced banking market, right? I think if you have ever had to use South African banks as consumers, I think you'll be amazed at the quality of the technology that they have, right? So I think when we talk specifically about South Africa, you'll probably find that when it comes to on-demand, which is the industry that I've been working with for several years, I think South Africa is probably in the top 10 markets in the world for that, right? We have Naspers, which is one of the global market leaders in on-demand grocery, with Delivery Hero and Deliveroo, and they basically own half of the market that is not Uber Eats, right? They have Uber Eats. Bolt has used South Africa as one of the key markets to start food delivery. At the same time, you look at the size of Take-A-Lot, right? As Nyoki was saying, and it only sells in South Africa, right? And when you look at the total turnover, it's like $230 million, right? And when for a few years we say Amazon is coming to the country and is going to buy Take-A-Lot. Well, the reality is that Amazon can come in and just start Amazon, and when the competitor is $230 million, it's not like a huge competitor to compete against, right? So if you look at the other African market, I think that even there, it's a tale of two kind of sides, right? As Nyoki mentioned, Jumia is available in 23 countries, so you can use the same account in multiple countries. Have quite an extensive footprint of and services, right? They probably started doing grocery delivery before any of the South African retailers had grocery delivery, right? When I started my first business in 2015, Jumia had just started doing liquor deliveries in Nigeria with actually in partnership with Pernod Ricard. So I don't necessarily think that it's just to find products that are difficult to find. It actually reminded me how I used to use the internet in the 90s in Italy, right? To find a CD, right? That probably people don't know what it is anymore, but about like an album that I couldn't find anywhere else, or a very specific type of shoes, right? I think that now you find that it's not. I think in Africa we are looking for convenience a lot, and I think in that context you'll see that, especially with the pandemic, the pickup of e-commerce has been quite substantial, especially in South Africa, of course, and I can speak for South Africa more than I can speak for the rest of the continent. But I surely don't think that it's being used just to find things that you can't find elsewhere. Is to resolve a challenge that it's that of access to everyday products, and I think that because we have leapfrogged to better technologies, that, for example, Europe, I think we have the opportunity to really grow really fast on e-commerce.
Okay, thank you. It's very interesting. I know that South Africa, all the, let's say, the physical infrastructure and the digital infrastructure is probably the most developed in the continent, no? Or after Egypt maybe on the north and so on, but it's the most developed. As you say, the financial wealth, and you live in Cape Town. That is a fantastic place for that also. Maybe one day that development can be replicated in other African countries in their ways and their time. But maybe because you live there and stay there, you can talk to us also about data and how the data is origin, how it is managed, in the continent or in South Africa, how it's different maybe from other places in the world, or how it is equal. Like in South Africa, for instance, I don't know in other African countries, do you use or do you integrate artificial intelligence solutions to optimize the products that appear in your website? Then you can use the data for the customer, the products, and so on. Well, what's the importance of all of this there and what's the experience that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think differently from e-commerce as an industry or payment, where you need a regional infrastructure to enable those payment, data is one of those things that, as retailer, for example, we have access to, and we just need the expertise to take that data into insights, and those insights into action on how to improve your business. So we have the opportunity, I think, much faster to implement ways that we can use that data to improve the customer experience and improve the profitability of our businesses, right? So we use data a lot. I think especially specifically in grocery delivery. Imagine how many items you usually buy in your shop, and just the fact that I can preload your cart with the items that you most often buy. I can tell you when all of the items or the top 30 items that you buy are all available at your store today. We can tell you what items you're likely to run out in the next couple of weeks. We can build subscription models that are pretty accurately predicting your taste in wine. There's a lot of that stuff that we are doing, and I think we are evolving really, really fast on. And I guess that's only one layer of it. Data and data science as a function within the business has really taken over every other function in terms of the support it gives to take complex data and support business development, whether it's consumer related, but even our logistics, our the way we pick in a store, right? And how we use AI and rather modern AI, machine learning, to consistently improve the sequence that we give our pickers to pick, so that we can pick faster and deliver product to customers faster. So in that context, the impact of data and our ability to extrapolate insights from it and make decisions and actions is massive. And in the last few years has really created business models and has really allowed us to execute ideas that in the past were almost impossible to execute.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. It's true. So thank you, Enrico. Maybe I want to come back to return to Alistair and ask you, Alistair, about data again. What about data flows in Africa? No, it's now we are talking a lot about the fourth industrial revolution, and the fourth industrial revolution. One of the things that says is that we have to put the data in hands of with its owners, no, and not of the companies, not to sell the data, not to harvest data without permission and so on, but knowing that, of course, as we already have said, that Africa is huge and there are many realities there. What is going on with the data management and ownership and so on in the continent? What can you tell us?
Thank you. Thank you for that question, Francisco. Yep. As Noki said earlier, there are quite a few countries in Africa who've adopted consumer protection laws, data protection laws. I think there are 28 who've adopted data protection laws. What has happened is that people have actually started to notice, policy makers have started to notice that there are major trading partners who have started to limit access to certain types of data, and in particular to financial data. So, for example, China has done so, India has done so. India, last month, penalized MasterCard for allegedly misusing their laws or abusing the law, and stopped MasterCard from either marketing its products or processing data, certain types of data in India. So these sorts of things have been noticed. The debate is really fueled by the concern over free flows of data, and also some people, both in the West and in the South, have accused big tech of collecting enormous amounts of data, in this case, African data, and exporting that to the US, to China, and elsewhere. TikTok is now, as you know, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, social media companies. It's exporting enormous amounts of data to China. So then people start getting nervous. And what they're trying to do is create what they call data localization laws, which require that if you generate data in a country, and I mean not just personal data, I mean all sorts of data, company data, even government data, etc. If that's generated in a country, it has to be stored in that country, and that creates barriers to trade. So this is a debate that's really just starting. The African Union just had a discussion on it a couple of weeks ago. There are regulations. They will become probably more strong before something is done to make a solution. It's going to be, I think, a very difficult issue worldwide, and Africa is going to be within that. When it comes to the African Free Trade Area, you need data. You need data to do e-payments across frontiers. How are you going to square that with data localization regulations? I think this is going to be a very big argument, and it's not a clear-cut issue either. It doesn't have an easy solution. It has many different solutions, all depending on the country that you are in, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. we have very few minutes now, and I have left Michelle for the end, but it's on purpose, because I think that everything that Joki said, Alistair said, Enrico said, comes very well for a big conclusion from Michelle. That is based on what is the big issue or big topic of the fourth industrial revolution happening all around the globe and also in Africa. So you are working in the different environments, like in Bahamas, you were advisor or you are advisor to the government, where they launch a CBDC currency, no, central bank digital currency. You work with the African Union also. You talk speak about how CBDCs and the blockchain and all the techs brought by the fourth industrial revolution are bringing really empowerment to the people that were unbanked, and now to the people that want to enter into the digital economy. No, so well, there are many things I want to ask you, but I don't have time. So please tell us about this. How do you see the changes coming on the management of data? How it's going to impact the people, impact the digital divide that is coming everywhere? Please tell us.
Sure. Thank you, Francisco. And thank you, everyone. It's great to be here. I'm sorry if my voice is a bit low because I've got a terrible cold. I'm very jealous because you're all in very wonderful places, warm weather and everything. So yes, but it's fantastic to be here. It's great to join all of you. Thank you for the question, Francisco. I mean, I've listened intently from my other panelists who've covered quite a lot of ground there. But I think a number of things I wanted to point out. I think first and foremost, we are obviously living in the digital revolution. There's no joke about that. And I think if there's one continent that's actually exemplifying the beauty of the advantages of living in the digital revolution is certainly in Africa. The growth in terms of the fintech ecosystem, for example, that we've heard about, with the unicorns that are springing up, for me, I think it's just the start. And in fact, we're going to see this growth really spur in the next couple of years because of what's happening within the space. But I mean, back to your point around things like digital currency, at the moment, the payments infrastructure across the world is actually going to see a transition. A lot of the stuff that, central banks are looking at are really more looking at towards innovation around the payments ecosystem. Because if you have a strong payments ecosystem, then you're able to trade, then you're able to do business. Trade is about people. Trade is about bringing bread and butter to the table. Yeah, we all know that. And if we're going to have that bread and butter come to the table, which concerns every country in every part of the world, we have to find new innovative ways of doing that. And new innovative ways of doing that includes, looking at the payments, looking at cross-border interactions, looking at exporting and importing activity. We've heard about, the little intra-African trade that happens. The whole purpose of the CFTA, or the Continental Free Trade Area, is really to boost that intra-African trade experience so that African countries start to trade and, do business with one another, but also gives them the competitiveness as well to enable them to trade, beyond the African borders into other markets, and actually start to reap some benefits rather than the other way around, where, international markets are getting benefits from Africa and not vice versa. So, we're trying to equal the level playing field, which I think is absolutely significant. Now, payments and currency discussion comes into all that, because if you don't have liquidity and you don't have capital market flows and you don't have, kind of financing or investments in place to enable that trade or that cross-border engagement to happen, then we are kind of digging a hole for all of us. The challenge around digital currency is actually how do you design your digital currency so that it's interoperable, with other currencies around the world. In Africa, we are having the discussion around the single currency, absolutely.
Yes.
But
maybe
there are kind
Africa
of, pros and there's pros and disadvantages around that. In my view, I think some of the pros is obviously, you have that opportunity to bring in better competitiveness for African countries with a single currency, and you try and mitigate against the challenges of, the fluctuations between currency, exchange rates, and all those difficulties that we face. And there's less reliance on other, currencies that we have. So there's advantages around looking at the single currency, but also the disadvantages is actually are countries prepared to lose that independence they have in terms of dictating what happens with monetary policy and financial policy in their economies. So there's that big debate that's going on between how does that work out. And if every 80 to 90% of central banks at the moment around the world are actually exploring digital currency. Should we have a scenario where we have every single country in every part of the world introducing a digital currency that is not interoperable with other digital currency, you can see there are challenges around that. And then the whole discussion around data comes in, which we've already had. So very, very important that we set up these structures in place so that we can actually operate and interoperate with one another. So the challenge really is very much around creating a balance, ensuring that with whatever it is that we're creating and doing is actually supporting the small medium enterprises that we have who do rely on these payment infrastructures and who do rely on the ecosystem to do business. Unfortunately, I can see we don't have a lot of time, but I think for me, to summarize, I think this is a wonderful time to actually untap the value that's in the digital economy. Blockchain has a big part to play. Today, I haven't covered blockchain, but the world knows that I have been championing blockchain for the last 10 years. It's about time we start to leverage the tools that we do have.
Yes, true. We don't have time, but I invite all the viewers to listen to Michelle on YouTube, that she has different presentations now.
Thank you all of you for your intervention. Who would like to be here so longer, but we are running out of time. Gracias, Francisco, a ti también por moderar esta interesante ponencia. Nosotros no tenemos que marchar, no tenemos tiempo. Gracias a nuestros sponsors, al Ministerio de Transportes, al Ayuntamiento de Barcelona, a Akbar y a Servia Habitat. En un par de horas nosotros volvemos aquí, pero ustedes se pueden quedar en el resto de canales visualizando un poco todo el contenido que tenemos para ofrecerles y una charla inspiracional en apenas una hora con Marta Romo, CEO de la consultora BIAP, que va a hablar de la neurociencia en las empresas. Les dejamos. Gracias.